Welcome back, everyone. Today, we'll dive into the epic conclusion of Colleen Oak's Queen of Hearts trilogy. This is the final part of Dinah's origin story, the girl who became Wonderland's most notorious ruler, the Queen of Hearts. In War of the Cards, Dinah faces her greatest challenges yet, from confronting her father to leading her army into a war that will determine the fate of Wonderland. Will she finally take the throne, or will her enemies bring her to ruin? Let's find out as we dive into the thrilling conclusion of the Queen of Hearts journey. Spoiler alert. If you haven't read War of the Cards by Colleen Oakes, this video contains major plot points. So, grab your compass, hoist the sails, and let's begin. As Dinah marches with her army toward Wonderland Palace, she is haunted by nightmares of her past. Each night, the faces of those she's lost, Wardley, Harris, and even the heart cards she killed during her escape, come back to her in twisted, terrifying visions. In her dreams, Wardley's face is filled with sadness and betrayal, reminding Dinah of what she's lost. The constant nightmares wear her down, making her question if she's truly ready to face her father. She knows that once she crosses the threshold of the palace, there will be no turning back. Dinah leads a divided army toward the Wonderland Palace, with the Spades on one side and the Yurkei on the other. The tension between the two factions is palpable. Centuries of distrust and hatred have left deep scars, and it shows in the frequent arguments and skirmishes that break out. As the army marches, Dinah struggles to keep them united, knowing that division could spell disaster for her plans. Every step they take brings them closer to the palace, but also closer to the war that will either crown her queen or end in her downfall. As they march, Wardley makes several attempts to reconcile with Dinah. Despite his efforts to mend their relationship, the wounds between them run deep. Dinah feels betrayed by Wardley for staying behind in Wonderland while she fled, and though she still harbors feelings for him, her heart is now hardened. Wardley, who once was her confidant and closest friend, now feels like a distant memory of a life she can never return to. Dinah brushes off his attempts at reconciliation, focusing instead on the throne that awaits her. Leadership proves to be an immense challenge for Dinah. The Spades and Yurkei constantly bicker, each side demanding more respect or retribution for perceived slights. Dinah is forced to step in, negotiating peace between the two factions and reminding them of their common goal, overthrowing the King of Hearts. Each time she manages to calm the disputes, she strengthens her authority, slowly earning the respect of both the Spades and Yurkei. But every time they clash, she's reminded of how fragile her army's unity truly is. Along the way, the army holds a solemn funeral for two fallen Spade soldiers, killed during one of the earlier skirmishes. However, tensions rise again as the Yurkei and Spades clash over their differing funeral customs. The Yurkei, who believe in cremating their dead, are horrified when the Spades insist on burying their fallen comrades. Dinah intervenes once more, choosing to honor both customs in a way that pleases neither group completely but keeps the peace. The funeral is a sobering reminder of the cost of war and the fragility of the alliances she's built. One morning, as the army presses forward, the sky above them splits open in a breathtaking celestial event known as the Sky Curtain. A magnificent swirl of colors and lights fills the sky, momentarily halting the army's march. The tension between the Yurkei and Spades dissolves as they stare in awe at the phenomenon. Dinah, drawn to the Sky Curtain, steps beneath its glow, feeling as though the universe itself is sending her a message. For a brief moment, she experiences peace, but she knows the war is far from over. As Dinah steps into the light of the Sky Curtain, she is transported into a strange, dreamlike state. She feels weightless, surrounded by stars and galaxies. In this place, she experiences a moment of clarity, realizing that the war is inevitable but so is her destiny. The Sky Curtain, in its otherworldly way, seems to grant her the strength she needs to move forward. But she knows she cannot linger here. Slowly, the curtain's light fades, and Dinah returns to the harsh reality of the battlefield. With newfound resolve, Dinah leads her army to the outskirts of Wonderland Palace. The palace looms in the distance, a stark reminder of the father who betrayed her and the throne that awaits. The march grows quiet as the army approaches the palace gates. Inside, the King of Hearts has fortified his defenses, preparing for the final showdown. Both sides know that once the battle begins, there can be no turning back. The fate of Wonderland rests on the outcome of this war. Dinah's army is met by the full force of the king's army, a sea of heart cards, diamonds, and clubs standing in perfect formation at the palace gates. Their gleaming armor reflects the sunlight, creating an intimidating wall of soldiers. Dinah's soldiers hesitate, but her steely gaze keeps them from retreating. The king's army outnumbers them, but Dinah knows that her army's loyalty and thirst for justice will carry them through. The tension builds as both sides prepare for battle, each knowing that only one will emerge victorious. Before the battle begins, Dinah addresses her army with a rousing speech. She speaks of the injustices they have suffered under the king's rule, of the loved ones they've lost, and of the future they must fight for. Her words are filled with passion and determination, and her army responds with roars of approval. In this moment, Dinah is not just a princess or a rebel, she is their queen. As she finishes her speech, her army is ready, hearts and minds united under her banner. The battle erupts in a violent clash of steel and blood as Dinah's forces charge at the palace gates. Leading the charge is Morte, Dinah's monstrous steed, who tears through the enemy ranks with terrifying speed and power. Dinah fights alongside her soldiers, cutting down heart cards with a fury born of years of betrayal. Every swing of her sword brings her closer to the palace, to her father, and to the throne. But the battle is brutal, and many of her soldiers fall in the chaos. As the battle rages on, the King of Hearts unleashes his deadliest weapon, the Jabberwocky. The monstrous creature swoops down onto the battlefield, its massive wings casting a shadow over the fighting soldiers. It tears through Dinah's forces with ease, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Sir Goran is nearly crushed by the creature, and for a moment, it seems as though all is lost. But Dinah, refusing to be cowed, rallies her forces and orders them to focus their attack on the Jabberwocky, determined to bring the beast down. As Dinah's forces manage to wound the Jabberwocky, the king's army begins to falter. The sight of their greatest weapon injured causes panic among the heart cards, and the king, seeing the tide turning, orders a retreat. His soldiers fall back into the palace, leaving the gates vulnerable. Seizing the opportunity, Dinah orders her army to storm the gates, determined to end the war once and for all. With the palace gates breached, Dinah leads her forces into the heart of Wonderland Palace. The once grand halls are now filled with the sounds of battle as Dinah's soldiers clash with the remaining heart cards. Dinah pushes through the chaos, her mind focused solely on one thing: reaching the throne room and confronting her father. Every step she takes brings her closer to the final confrontation that will determine her fate. Dinah finally reaches the throne room, where the King of Hearts awaits her. The king, still defiant, mocks Dinah, calling her a foolish girl who was never fit to rule. But Dinah, filled with years of pent-up anger and betrayal, no longer fears her father. In a fierce sword fight, she confronts the man who destroyed her life, determined to end his reign of terror once and for all. Each strike of her sword is fueled by the pain and loss she's endured, and as the battle rages, Dinah realizes that this is the moment she's been preparing for her entire life. With a final, powerful strike, Dinah drives her sword through the king's heart. The king, who had ruled Wonderland with an iron fist for so long, falls to the ground, his reign finally over. Dinah stands over his lifeless body, her sword dripping with blood. The war is over, and Wonderland is finally free from the king's tyranny. But as Dinah looks down at her fallen father, she feels not triumph, but the weight of what she's lost to reach this point. With the king dead, Dinah takes the crown from his lifeless body and places it on her head. Her soldiers kneel before her, acknowledging her as their rightful queen. For years, Dinah fought to reclaim her throne, and now, at long last, she has succeeded. But the crown is heavy, and Dinah knows that her reign will be filled with challenges. As she looks out over her soldiers, she vows to be a just and fair ruler, determined to lead Wonderland into a new era of peace. In the aftermath of the battle, Dinah walks through the palace grounds, reflecting on the heavy cost of her victory. The battlefield is littered with the bodies of soldiers, both friends and enemies, and the weight of her choices presses down on her. Despite her victory, Dinah knows that ruling Wonderland will not be easy. The war may be over, but her reign as queen is only just beginning, and new challenges await her in the days to come. Days after the battle, Dinah is crowned the Queen of Hearts in a grand coronation ceremony. The people of Wonderland gather to witness the beginning of a new era, one that Dinah promises will be filled with justice and fairness. As she takes her place on the throne, Dinah looks out over her kingdom, knowing that the road ahead will be difficult, but also knowing that she has the strength to lead Wonderland into a brighter future. The girl who once ran from the palace is now its queen, and her journey is finally complete. And so ends the story of Dinah, the girl who became the Queen of Hearts. Her journey was filled with loss, betrayal, and unimaginable challenges, but through it all, she remained strong and determined. From the halls of the palace to the battlegrounds of Wonderland, Dinah fought for her right to rule, and now she stands as the queen of a kingdom she once feared she had lost. But this is only the beginning. As queen, Dinah will face new trials, new enemies, and new challenges, but she will face them all with the strength and courage that brought her this far. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Be sure to like, subscribe, and let us know which villain origin story you'd like to see next.